All right, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday show. We're 6-5. And it wasn't a very pretty 6-5, but 6-5 nonetheless. We got the victory over the lowly Lions, who are still winless. And I'm joined as always by Mike Ristano over there. Mike, how are you doing, my friend?
Pretty good. It's been a tough week. Laura lost her mom. I know. I told you. We've talked about it the past couple days now. So it's been a very trying week. Um, but as far as the Browns go, it's a big game. I mean, I don't know what more we can say.
Yeah.
It's pretty much. I don't want to say do or die, but I mean it's pretty close. If you lose on Sunday, you've got to come back and you have to win the game after the bye week, and then it's up for grabs. But I think it starts on Sunday. You got to figure out a way. We'll see what this team's made of Sunday night. See if they can go get a victory.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. You saw Baker's wasn't. By the way, I am very sorry to hear about your mother-in-law passing away. It's really difficult, and I'm glad that you decided to join tonight, and would have completely understood if you needed to take some time off. But I'm glad you're definitely here, and with the Browns, kind of switching gears a tiny bit. We got Conk and Hunt back.
Yep.
Baker did not practice. I guess he was in street clothes, as MKC tweeted out.
Yeah, she not to go off topic. I'm just going to do this for a second, but I always find it really. I don't even know if interesting is the word, but she always has these stories that seem to try and drum up some trouble, if you will.
Yeah.
But yet then you see her at town hall at Baker's, feed the hungry, and there she is smiling and joking around and assisting and hanging out with the players and stuff. And I mean it almost feels like the Browns are, I'm waiting for Vince McMahon to pop out. It's total WWE.
Yeah. I mean, she is. God. I mean, I know it's their job, and I know that they can't always be rah rah, but you don't have to inject dissent with the nature of your questions.
Yeah.
Or the nature of your tweets. I mean, does she not realize that there are the fans of the team, the people who pay for the tickets, the people who pay for all the equipment, and when I say their equipment, I mean their own gear and stuff like that, stuff like you and I wearing all this stuff, right? Does she not realize that we're the ones who want to see positivity and positive things about this team?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want there to be dissent. We don't want there to be negativity that's placed out there. And it's this slanted way that the media goes about doing it, that the old guard, the people like Tony and Mary Kay and all those, the legacy people who've been in Cleveland for the past 20 to 25 years, right? Those people they've been through so much negativity with the team that they just can't help themselves. They want to almost inject themselves into the story, and it pisses a lot of people off, me included. Yeah. I don't care that they block me. I could literally give two shits that they're blocking me. And you know what? If that's what they want to do, and they can't hear a little criticism from time to time, then, so be it. And I know that, with Mary Kay even sliding into your DMs that one time,
true story.
How ridiculous is that?
To question why I'm questioning her. Just do your job. Don't worry about what I'm doing.
No, I mean, she's just something else. And like, I got to believe at some point these legacy media folks are gonna either find their way out of Cleveland. I don't think Mary Kay ever will, but
I
some of
agree
these
with you.
other ones gotta get out of there. And it's just I'm not saying you got to be a diehard fan of the team like Zagura, but you should respect your audience a little bit more. That's all I'm asking for.
And that's a solid way of putting it. A very fair way to put it.
Yeah. But going back to the topic at hand, I think if we can get Hunt back, I am a little bit more concerned about Conklin though, with a dislocated elbow.
How long has it been? I haven't been keeping track, but you figure
it was what when since he got injured.
I mean, Hunt JOK's played what 2 games since he's been off the IR, right?
Yeah.
So you figure this will be week 6 for Hunt, and then Conklin was on it a couple of games after, right?
It was the Steelers game, so October 31st.
That's right. It was the Steelers game. Absolutely, you're right. So yeah, that's a pretty quick turnaround. I don't know if
it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, and I'm not a doctor, but I guess and again, I don't know. Once they put it back in, then it must just be, I would imagine he didn't tear anything.
Yeah.
So I guess at that point it's just rehabbing the muscles all around it to get it strong enough to go. But to your point, a couple of seconds ago, it's pretty quick. I'd imagine they'd put some sort of souped up, elbow brace on there to protect it from popping back out. But yeah, I mean, we'll see if he can make it through the game, and that's if he goes. We don't know for sure yet, but it's all signs point to the 2 of them being back.
Yeah, which would be honestly fantastic. It's like getting us closer to the actual Cleveland Browns that we were expecting to have. This season. And
no, I will.
Yeah, and I think that the reality is it's like, hey, we want to be able to put the best possible team out there, and we're going to need to against the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree. And then if you look at the flip side, you had no Schwartz today, so he must still be suffering from that concussion. Hopefully he gets over it and he'll be activated before the week's over. But with Thanksgiving being tomorrow, we lose one day. So now you're talking about, typically, Monday's the day they go in, they get treatment, they look at the film. Tuesday they're off. Wednesday and Thursday are the work days, and Friday, and then Saturday's your walkthrough, and then it's go time on Sunday. So they lose that day. So that'll be interesting to see where we are, come Friday. But we've got no Landry didn't practice today, and Higgins didn't practice today either. And I believe I've been running around all day, but I believe DPJ was ruled out today for Sunday night.
Yeah, he's been on the bike all week anyway, so it's like, okay. Unfortunate that we're missing kind of our number one, you could really say, because Jarvis at 100% is number one, but at this point, not being 100%, who knows? And that's the real key here is like how much of the the scheming has to change now that we really are severely limited at wide receiver. And for whatever reason, we can't, like, Higgins cannot step up and be a high volume guy. Like he's good for 1 or 2 first downs a game. And
then, you get into, and I'm sure we'll touch upon it in the next segment, but again, I like I do weekly, I go back to the tape, as the once not so great Hugh Jackson used to say. But I go back to the all 22, and I get that some certain person is injured, right?
Yep.
And he admitted today that he was able to fight through the shoulder, but now with the lower extremity issues, it's messing with his mechanics, because that's, in his words, that's that's his bread and butter, is the lower portion of the mechanics. So
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, you go back and you look at this last game, right? He had an 8.6 quarterback rating or whatever, and some say, boo-hoo, what does a quarterback rating really mean? And then some say boo-hoo, what does a PFF score mean? So I mean, they all mean something, right? They wouldn't be there
Yeah.
if they didn't mean anything. But I'm belaboring the point here, but the point being is, we're missing reads again, and some crucial reads. So I just, the excuses of, you're new in the offense are done. This is more than halfway through year two of Stefanski's offense.
Mm-hmm.
And, the injuries are the injuries, but you're playing through them. And, if you're reading the right guy and you sail a pass or you throw it at his feet or whatever, it's there, it's on tape. Hey, the injury must be affecting him.
Yeah.
But when you're missing reads game in and game out, it's tough. And I think, and then I'll be quiet because I've been kind of long winded on this, but I almost feel like if this was, a Josh Allen or, a Patrick Mahomes or a Justin Herbert, I don't know that they're marching those guys out continuously. I think those guys, they put on the bench and let them get well. I specifically, think that they're doing this to try and get an evaluation, because I think they still don't know.
Yeah. No, I think clearly they definitely don't know. And I mean, what everybody else is saying is like, what is option B then? It can't just be the quote unquote another quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. Quarterbacks are a supply and demand issue. We've talked about this a lot. And, I think clearly, I don't care what anybody says, but clearly the injuries have piled up on Baker, and they are affecting him. And then it comes down to, at what point are you better off with a C plus type quarterback in Case Keenum going out there and leading the team than you are with a really dinged up Baker, right? So that's just in the short term, but then in the long term, evaluating the landscape of what you're going to do at that really critical quarterback position, that's going to be the tough thing. Because do you go back to, like Rich Eisen said, or do you go back to a kid in college and you start over? Because the NFL comes, because of the salary cap, you have championship windows and you have guys coming into their prime. Now, can a rookie lead you to the Super Bowl? I mean, it's not impossible. I don't think it's ever happened, but it's not impossible. And are the Browns ready to make that shift, or are they going to continue to build around him and allow him to be the guy, and then maybe draft a young guy like when they drafted RG3 and they also drafted Kirk Cousins that same year in Washington? Is it like, do we go after and try to get a young insurance policy? Not somebody that we just pick up, off the street, but somebody that we actually draft and put some kind of resource into. There's talent out there. We have to decide if Baker's going to be the talent that we want to get behind or not. And, one thing that really stood out to me today that I actually retweeted was, I can't remember who it was who tweeted it, but it was the video of Tim Couch. When Tim Couch got hurt, he got sacked and hurt, and, he was getting booed, and then they were cheering because he got knocked out of the game. And I'm like, if you really look back, that Tim Couch era for the Browns wasn't great, but we had an upswing at that point. We made the playoffs one year. Then he led us to the playoffs. Kelly Holcomb was the guy who actually played in it, but I mean, he led us there. and he wasn't appreciated. And he didn't have nearly the amount of talent that Baker does. But injuries are injuries, and certain things. And then you got these media people saying like, "Oh, he's about to lose the locker. He hasn't lost. He's about to lose the locker room." Unnamed source.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? You're adding more drama. You're adding more issues into this and talking about it to, hundreds of thousands and millions of people once it's all like retweeted and everything. People are just feeding off that bullshit.
Yeah.
And everybody just has to come back to earth here and to say, we have a quarterback. It's Baker Mayfield. This is the guy that led us to the playoffs last year, that won a playoff game last year, and he's not doing well. He's not. But the answer isn't Case Keenum. And if we go to Case Keenum now, if we decide to, and it's for anything other than sitting Baker just to allow him to heal, then we are not, like, we're kind of back to some sort of rebuild.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can get lucky with, finding a quarterback. You can get lucky every once in a while. Finding a Russell Wilson in the third round, or a Tom Brady in the 6th or 7th. Like, it happens, but it's so rare, right? It's so rare. And I think that's the key thing here is we have to make a determination at some point. The team's going to have to. And I think right now, I think what you're seeing, and I think what we have all kind of come to the conclusion is, we've seen signs of really strong life. Like that touchdown pass he threw in Cincinnati to DPJ was, that's one of the best passes I've ever seen him throw in all the years he's played for Cleveland. Right? And it's like, do we want to throw out that guy for, for the fear of the unknown? I think that's where we stand.
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about this for a couple of weeks now, but there's folks that get bent out of shape, and oh my God, didn't you see 1-31 and the past 20 plus years, but when you go back to the history of just the putrid football, we didn't have much of anything anywhere. You had Joe Thomas and you had, Mack at center at one point. But it didn't matter back then because those were like two pieces and nothing else anywhere.
Right.
And you look at this team, and we said it, they spent the money on locking up the guards. Wills is already, locked up, quote unquote, with that rookie deal. And you got Conklin another year. So, if you were ever going to plug and play, now is the time, because the offensive line is solid. You don't have to worry about them getting somebody killed. They're solid. So, if you did decide to, if it doesn't work out, right, and we continue to see what we're seeing, it would be okay to even, you don't even have to get a veteran. Baker still has the reins, and you go out and you draft a Kenny Pickett if he's what we think he might be. And again, we don't know, where we would draft at that point, etc. But, Baker's on his 5th year, so he's going to be here. Unless he held out, which I don't see. Or, if they're totally just done, if things don't improve and continue on an upward trajectory the rest of the way, they could just say, we're done and trade them or whatever and bring in a veteran and draft somebody. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's, in years past, there really were no options.
Yeah.
Today, middle of 2021 going into 2022 here in a month and a half, 2 months, they're pretty much wide open. They can do whatever they want to do. And you can't do really much worse than you can't say that Baker's won these games, right? I mean, the games that we've won have been on the legs of Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
So you can't do much worse. So I think we're in a good spot, actually. To evaluate, see what we're looking at the end of the year, and if they decide to go one way or the other, I think we're okay. I don't think the sky's falling.
Yeah. I think, I think we're in a good spot from all those points you made, because oftentimes when you're drafting, let's say you draft a guy in the middle to late of the first round, right? Which means that you expect that person to be a contributing member of your team. It was the same thing that happened with, Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees. Same thing that happened, in Green Bay when they drafted Aaron Rodgers originally, when they had Brett Favre on the team, and then when they did it with Jordan Love. It's a thing that smart organizations do, right? Is to prepare for, what's coming next. And if they haven't seen enough out of Baker at this point, then you're making really good points. It's not like that he's going to this person might be going to an 0-16 or 1-15 team that's in the middle of a rebuild. Like, we have pieces, we have a ton of talent on this team on all sides. But the question will be is, there are still some absolute deficiencies on defense. And if you look at the kind of contribution that then now second year guys like Greg Newsome and JOK are doing, could we be missing out on another JOK or another Greg Newsome or another Denzel Ward or another guy like that who could be a Pro Bowl caliber talent, because we have to go back to the well and retool at the signal caller position. And that to me is like, you're taking 2 steps back to move 1 step forward. Now, it could be a situation too that we fall into that, because we've got that offensive line there, because we're going to be able to take pressure off from, with the running back situation that we have. Is that going to make it so a young quarterback can come in and get comfortable while he waits for a guy like Baker to either show up and play or get injured? Like, if we had, imagine this. Let me throw this scenario at you.
Yeah.
Imagine if we had a young quarterback, like, I don't know, like, what's the kid from Florida, Kyle Trask, or just somebody like that who we ended up on the Browns. And we were like, hey, this guy's got some talent. Maybe what's going on? Because we've all seen Case Keenum. We all know what his ceiling. He's reached his ceiling, and he reached it a while ago. And he's been nothing but mediocre his entire career. And so we know what we're going to get with Case Keenum. We're going to get a game manager who might be able to get things done against mediocre and bad teams. But going up against a team like Baltimore, that's a tall order. But if we had a young guy backing up today, what do you think the fan base would be saying about super injured Baker? Not just like injured Baker, like really injured Baker, going into a game that's as critical like this. Is this the point? Like, if we had a Jordan Love backing us up, is this the game that we give it to him?
That's a good hypothetical. If Jordan Love, no, because he was horrible when he came in for Rodgers, but that's that's strictly hindsight. Yeah, I don't know. I get you. The backup quarterback is there to, if needed, to be plugged in and be as close, and that's the key, as close to your starter to get you a win as possible. You look at the guy that we have, and I mean, he can manage the offense. He knows the offense. He doesn't have a very strong arm, but if you compared, I mean, the elephant in the room is simply this. Really, what's the difference right now in terms of the play you're seeing on the field, between Case Keenum and Baker Mayfield? And the answer is probably really not that different, right? I mean, at this point,
Yeah,
like,
probably.
Like you can't say, there's a tremendous drop off from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan
A
Love
ton, yeah.
or Lamar Jackson to Huntley and etc. But you look at what's going on right now, and you honestly could say, and I mean, there was people that have been puzzled all week and last week, but you could say, hey, why did we start Baker against the Lions? Why didn't we just sit him and let Case play? Because and then in hindsight, the 8.6 quarterback rating, I mean, Case probably would have probably done better. I mean, and
at least double that.
At least double that. So and it's not even, you get to the point now where you look at the, let's say, minus the past week, 2 weeks, we'll say, minus the past 2 weeks, the argument has been, or the conversation, I should say, not really an argument, is, you try playing with one shoulder and, it's the mechanics of getting it, turning that shoulder out and making the throws and stuff. And then he gets that new harness. And really, if you watch the clips from practice and then from the game, the shoulder isn't really bothering him anymore, right? People live with that injury. And I mean, I think George Kittle still has a separated shoulder, and I mean, that dude takes hits on a daily. Mm-hmm. Even, departed OBJ, as he's had a torn labrum for years, and he just doesn't want to get it fixed because it puts you behind the 8 ball, and it is what it is. But now we're getting to the point where it's not the shoulder, now it's a heel and it's a knee, and now that's throwing him off.
Yep.
So the only logical explanation that you could possibly say, and we said it earlier in the show, as to why they keep marching him out there, is to try and get some type of evaluation. It has to be, because if they were worried, and I, if I was the coach, and I'm not, or if I was the front office, I personally probably would have said, hey, we know you want to play. It's the Lions. If Case can't beat the Lions with the horses we got, then it doesn't matter anyway. And rest point. The heel and rest the knee. But they didn't. They you march him back out, against the lowly Lions. And I mean, heel, knee, and shoulder aside, he should have been able to do a hell of a lot better than what he did. But point being is, you can't look at these injuries anymore. You just can't, because the front office and the coach not looking at it that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the last 5 games, okay, we are 3-2. If you look at the whole season as a whole, we're 6-5. Baker said it himself. We are, we're a above 500 team. We're a 6-5 team, and everybody's treating us like we're completely garbage. And that's not true. It's not true that they're not. They've dealt with a lot of injuries. They've dealt with, almost all their key players at this point, other than Miles, has been injured. He's the only one who hasn't. And yeah. If you look at I think what frustrates people is everybody realizes we have a lot of talent. The expectations are really high. And when we're not seeing growth, we're seeing mediocre play. We're seeing really bad decisions when it comes to quarterback play specifically. And it's a tough pill to swallow. When you're like, hey, we drafted this guy first overall. He did a great job for us last year. He really did. And another challenging year, by the way. And another year that he was injured, right?
Yeah, and, which you and I talked about, just to throw in real quick before, and I don't want to make you lose your thought. In a year where there were no fans, no distractions, no nothing, it was like working in a bubble. So,
yep,
we've had that conversation. But go on.
You're absolutely right. And another thing to go and to talk about those injuries, right? I mean, I don't know about the heel, the knee, the leg. I don't know where those are coming from necessarily, because it doesn't appear that they're happening in game, but I could be wrong. But the key, I think, to going back to like, hey, if another quarterback came in or something like that, how we have this kind of elite offensive line, and we have foundational pieces that are going to make it easier for that person to be successful, a la Ben Roethlisberger and a la Andy Dalton and a la Lamar Jackson when they got to their teams. I mean, they weren't drafted first overall. They came to like decent teams and then helped elevate them. Baker definitely helped elevate the Browns. I mean, nobody can argue that he hasn't had a significant contribution to this team, the culture, the winning.
Oh yeah, most
everything.
definitely.
But then you look at it and you go, even with this offensive line, the amount of money we're paying, he injured himself.
That's just it. Very good point.
He threw an interception and decided to go and tackle and separated his own shoulder. Right? It's not, you can't blame it on the guys that are paid millions of dollars to protect him.
And Mike, you know what, an interesting point to build off of what you're saying is I've seen a lot of stuff this week, on social media about how, he played unbelievable the first 2 games and then he got hurt and then now he's been playing, poorly or whatever. I was at the Houston game and I could tell you for a fact, he was not playing even good before that injury. He had guys wide open. He was missing reads. His ball placement was off. I believe he had a pick earlier in the game. And then we tend to forget about, what actually was going on because we want to use that injury as an excuse. But he was not playing well in that game at all. And I mean, you could question the play in the Kansas City game as well, but
and that's a funny thing though, because if you look at the Houston game, go think back of it, that was probably statistically, other than the interception, his best game. He ran for a touchdown, he threw for a touchdown, he was 19 of 21, 213 yards. But to the eyeball, that's why I like stats and PFFs and QBRs and all that stuff don't necessarily paint the whole picture. Like you said, you were there, you watched that Houston game. I was here at home, I was watching it as well, and I was going, this isn't going well, right? I mean, our defense was giving up touchdowns. At halftime it was 14-14, and then we got lucky and we were able to turn on the gas a little bit more in the second half because Tyrod wasn't in. But who knows if he would have been in?
Forget it.
Right. I mean, thank God, because Tyrod, I'm just looking at the stats. Tyrod was, when he left the game, he was 10 of 11, 125, 1 touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown. 10 of 11. He was playing out of his mind.
Yeah, he's doing well.
And then Davis Mills coming in. Davis Mills does the exact opposite. He's 8 of 18, 102, 1 TD, but 1 pick. And that TD came late. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, I mean, the TD was a fourth quarter TD when the Browns were kind of playing more against the clock than they were against the Texans. Yeah, the bottom line is stats don't tell the whole story.
No, they don't, because I mean, if you, and someone had talked about in the chat about the 80% completion percentage, and absolutely, I think he was like 19 to 21, I think, for that game.
Yeah.
But if you look at the receiving stats, that's a very deceiving stat because, it wasn't like, he was peppering the ball all over the place. I mean, it was, I think he had the one play to Demetric Felton that scored that touchdown, which was like a 28 or 29 yard, pass play. Other than that, I mean, it was dink and dunk, 14, 12, 8 yard kind of stuff. So it's not like, it was 19 for 21 and throwing deep outs and digs, etc. It was like, hey, Mike, go run a button hook to that tree 5 yards away and I'll hit you.
Well, and I also think that game, that Texans game, was more of that. It's almost like a perfect microcosm of this Browns team. It is, I mean, Nick Chubb ran 11 times for 95 yards and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt rushed 13 times for 51 yards, right? So it was obviously, we ran more than we passed that game, okay? And I think that's what we want to do. And if you think about it, and also you could almost say it was technically a touchdown pass, but it was a lateral to Demetric Felton, who's also a running back.
Right.
So, and I'm looking at the stats. You're absolutely right. Harrison Bryant, four receptions, 49 yards. Hooper had 5 receptions for 40. Higgins, 2 receptions. Njoku, 2 receptions. Peoples-Jones, 1. Jarvis, 1. Nick, 1. Hunt, 1. So it was little dink and dunks and running the ball. And I think that's where we all kind of got to go back and go, if we're going to, if Stefanski, when he doesn't have access to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt at the same time, I feel like Stefanski gets more into the mode of, okay, we're just going to throw the ball 80% of the time. And it's like, well, I understand that, but you still have Dearness Johnson, who's proven himself to be a very capable running back. And there's no reason why Nick Chubb and Dearness Johnson can't do a similar thing than Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Okay? Now, when you don't have Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, and you're running with Dearness Johnson, Felton, Kelly, and the rest of the walk-ons, then you're gonna have to do something else. You're gonna have to rely on your number 1 overall draft pick and your expensive wide receiver, and your expensive tight end. You're gonna have to do that. But that's what we're set up to do. We are set up to run heavy.
And you know what? In a perfect world, and as we know, the world's not perfect, but where everything and all the chips fall the way we want them to fall, is Baker's lower body injuries start improving. He shows us on Sunday night, that he's going through his progressions and he's hitting the guys that he's supposed to be hitting, and we win and we go on a little roll. And then come the off season, whatever, whether we made the playoffs, we didn't make the playoffs, irrelevant. But as long as we know, hey, you know what, we're going to be okay with this guy. Now, all of a sudden, and I'll just use these 2 guys because, everybody knows who they are. But now all of a sudden, you're dealing for a Chris Olave or a Garrett Wilson in the first round to give somebody a weapon. This is where you get handicapped, because if they decide that he's not the guy and you have to go draft somebody, now you're probably going to have to give up some capital to move a little bit to get whoever, if there is a guy that you like in the first round. And now, here you are drafting another quarterback when you should be just being able to add weapons. Sort of like how Green Bay probably should have, instead of going, and wasting that pick on Jordan Love when they could have got Rodgers a weapon. That was just bad front officing. But in our case, if he's not the guy, now all of a sudden you have to sacrifice getting the weapon in the first round, and that never works out well. I mean, that's why you look at the Ravens. They always draft well, even after Ozzie left. They still draft well, and Lamar Jackson was sort of it was just a mulligan.
Yeah,
it was a mulligan. Yeah. Because their team was so set, they drafted well, that they were able to say, hey, you know what? Screw it. Let's give up a couple picks. Let's get back in there. We'll snag him at 32. And if he pans out, great. If he doesn't, hey, we tried. And, he's the league MVP.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they work out like that. I mean, let's start thinking about some of the scenarios before we get into PFS. If we go in and lose this game, we lose this game to the Ravens this week, in Baltimore, which is kind of the interesting thing. I don't know if I'd prefer, based on where we are now, I'd rather be home first and then buy and then go there, because I think 6-6, if we were looking at 6-6 at week 12, with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games left, and tough games, Ravens again, Raiders, Packers, Steelers, Bengals. I mean, all of those teams are playoff contention teams, right? So we have an uphill battle at the end of the season. And after getting annihilated by the Patriots, barely holding on against the Lions, and, losing at home embarrassingly to the Steelers, I mean, it doesn't feel good.
No.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just there. The chat's cracking me up. I a little here is a little trivia, and I'll throw it out there, and then nobody Google it. If you have an idea, throw it out there. If you don't, I'll give you a couple minutes, and then I'll tell you what it was. But when James Brown would perform, he would be singing and doing and whatever, and in the middle of playing, you would hear him say 25, and he would do that all the time. Like if you look through any of his performances, he always throws 25 out. So and this goes for you too, Mike. If anybody knows why that occurred, let me know. And if nobody comes up with it in the next couple minutes, I'll tell you why.
I don't know why.
We'll let the chat have a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, looking at what we're up against here is if Baker can get us to the playoffs this season, because we're not going to win the championship this year. I mean, it's like this isn't a championship team. Now, I know that
be like a Cinderella Eagles story.
I mean, we'd have to basically win out and get hot, and it's like I just there's nothing that indicates that's in the cards.
Right. Right. We hope it is, but
yeah, there's just nothing that indicates that we haven't had the consistency to be able to rip off like 6 in a row.
Yeah.
Like we can't, and then we'd need that kind of heat going into the playoffs in order to be competitive there. Because if not, what are we going to do? Lose first game to the Ravens or something? I mean, it's like, it's good to make the playoffs. I'd rather be in playoff football than not.
Yeah.
But man, it's going to be an uphill battle to get there.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the one thing that I could say, and that little arrow has been stuck on the Baker drama for a while, but
right.
It gets to a point where, good try, Hambone, but no, you get to a point where you say to yourself, like, just be a franchise quarterback. Just act like a franchise quarterback. And continuously we don't get that. And I get you want to be your own person, and somebody needs to be there, they are who they are, etc. And I get that. But at what point do you get to where, you put the cocky stuff away? And look, if you are, 8-2 right now, and you want to be cocky and you want to come out and say, "Hey, idiots," because that's essentially what happened the other day. "Hey, idiots, how about you shut up while we're working on offense?" Right? 8-2. Yeah, Baker. Why don't they be quiet? We can't figure out why they're not quiet or whatever. But you're sitting at 6-5. You just had a game in which you had an 8.6 passer rating. You played like absolute garbage. And then you're going to throw that out there. Oh, I don't care about the booze. It's the same people that don't care, that can't be quiet while we're operating on offense. Don't care. Dude, you do care, or else you wouldn't have came out with what you said. So maybe tone it down a hair, right? Just tone it down a hair. And, I got to tell you, a guy that I've watched 3 interviews in the past couple days, and really good interviews. And you could just tell a very down to earth kid that just lets it all rip out on the field. And that's where he does his talking. And that's Justin Herbert.
Yep. I knew you were going to say that.
You know what I mean? Like, just almost like that Peyton Manning, Eli Manning type of, just quiet and just goes about their business, right? Just go about your business. If you're lighting the freaking world on fire, then go ahead and do it. But I still believe if John Dorsey is not the GM when Baker gets drafted, and it's not a very bravado like GM at the time, the grab another crotch thing would have turned anybody else off at one. I truly believe that. I don't think that if anybody else had the number 1 draft pick that they were going to go Baker Mayfield. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, that's, that's how I feel on that.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been in that draft. It would have been ballsy as hell to have gone Josh Allen with number one. And we talked about this a lot. You know, the organizational dysfunction that Baker had to go through to get to where he is now. Could a guy like Josh Allen coming out of like the middle of nowhere been able to deal with that, or was he benefiting from a little bit more of the stability there? Because if it wasn't Baker Mayfield, then the pick was going to be Sam Darnold. And so, Sam Darnold has basically played himself out of the league. Josh Rosen has absolutely played himself out of the league. These guys aren't going to get another shot.
Yeah. It was a very poor class, obviously. I mean, Josh Allen and Lamar at this point.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I think one last point on this.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You saw what just came through the chat, right?
PFF was like, all right, let's go. Let's get to it. One last point that I want to say.
When your dad kicks in with the PFF, and then I don't know if you noticed this, he has a lot more dots next to that last F than he usually does.
Let's go, guys.
Yeah.
One more point that I want to make before we get to that.
Yeah.
Is I don't know about you, but these progressive commercials, all the commercials, the Heisman House, everything gets annoying when you're like barely beating the Lions and getting your doors blown out by another rookie. Because think about this. The quarterbacks you see on Sunday in the commercials are Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Baker Mayfield. It's not Tom Brady. It's not Russell Wilson. You know, it's not other guys who have won in this league. It's Baker Mayfield, Pat Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers, and one of them isn't like the others. You know, and then on top of that, you know, one of the interesting things with the whole, you know, I think this is part of the drama that we haven't discussed was like, you know, what happened with Emily Mayfield, where she put the Instagram story out that equated some Baker Mayfield being tough and the rest of the team not. She went back and clarified it. It's like, come on, like, which I thought it was a very dumb thing to say.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna have that much influence, knowing that you've got thousands of followers and the people who are following you primarily are Baker Mayfield fans and Browns fans, primarily, right? Let's be honest here. To not read through a tweet or not read through a post and then blindly, you know, Instagram story that without realizing what kind of damage that could do.
And you and I said that that's probably exactly what happened. But to your point right now, you got to be a little bit better. You can't just, you're in a position where, you know, you have to, if you're going to retweet something, repost something, whatever something, and you're the husband of a sports star, no less, you know, the quarterback in the city, where no other team matters as much as the Browns.
Yeah, just keep your mouth shut.
You got to proofread that, man. You got to proofread that. You can't just blindly send something out. No. I mean, imagine if that wasn't even like, you know, it could have been worse, right? It could have been worse. And she just, you know, yep. And then someone said, hey, what are you doing there? Did you read the last sentence?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, people were trying to equate it to what OBJ's dad did. I'm like, I think there's a big difference between like, you know, slipping of the mind to and defending your guy versus, you know, outwardly, you know, publishing a 11-minute video saying why the team sucks, right? That's where, like, that's the difference here, and everybody has to realize that, you know. And Emily took a lot of heat for that, rightfully so. Whether if she meant it, then she definitely needed to take heat, and if she didn't mean it and she made a mistake, well, then she should take some heat for making a mistake like that. You know, like, I don't think she should go unscathed. But I don't know if you saw on Twitter, man, that there are a lot. I didn't even realize this, that how much negative sentiment surrounds her.
Well, yeah. I mean, and you know, I look at it this way, right? We're on social media. Everybody in the chat is on social media. Mm-hmm. The Browns players are on social media. And, you know, we get to a point where we're sick of it. You don't think that there's some guys on the team that are just like, I just wish this shit would end? You'd be foolish to think that there isn't people like that. There has to be. There absolutely.
Yeah, they're humans. They're human beings.
And it's tiring. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And especially again, if I get annoyed when I'm watching the late games after Baker stinks it up and now I got to see him doing these cutesy commercials. And it's like,
Right.
I mean, I get it. You want to be a spokesperson for this stuff. And I mean, I wouldn't turn down the money either, but I think the difference is like kind of you, once you win a ring, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Oh, absolutely.
You can do whatever you want. I literally do not care what you do. Do not care. Outside of, being aggressively inappropriate, and that could be a lot of different things, but you can get away with quite a bit if you win a ring. He hasn't done that yet, and he's out there, shilling products, and I'm like, okay, it's great, but you and I are both very emotional when it comes to, what happens with the Browns. And when we win, I'm okay. I'm not like, yes, I can't wait to see that commercial. I'm like, if we win, I'm okay with it. If we lose, I'm annoyed by it.
I know. Although sometimes I find myself chuckling and then I get angry at myself for laughing because I'm like, wait a second. He sucked today. I can't laugh at this.
Yeah, we can't.
But all right, I'll get to the PFF.
Let's get to the PFF.
Your dad's carving turkeys now. But hey, before we get there though, for everybody that was listening before, the reason why he would do that is if one of his band members would play a wrong note, he would fine them $25. So if you go back and you look at any clips of James Brown playing and you see him say 25, he's always pointing to somebody when he says the 25, and the $25 would go in the
wow.
in the error jar. So yeah, that's why you would always hear him say that.
Well, I mean, so let's talk about something else then before we get into PFFs.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for this 25 jar to start happening from a penalty perspective with Stefanski. Like,
I agree. What a segue.
Exactly. How? I think that's one of the most frustrating things. You hear him because they do the video in the locker room after the game when he does his little pep talk. The penalties, we got to work on them. And it's like, come on, dude, like have a little bit more accountability. If somebody has a penalty that's ridiculous, you got to rip them out of the game. Like it's to the point where you got to start treating these guys like children. We are one of the most penalized teams in the league. We are not getting every single week. We're not getting better. You go watch the best teams in the league. You go watch the team like the Buccaneers or the Chiefs, right? They're not getting penalized the way that we are. We are an undisciplined team and we're costing ourselves games. The Detroit Lions cost themselves a game this week with a unforced error penalty while we were on commercial break. It cost them a game. You can't do that in the NFL. It's no. Things are too close. And then when we have 2 first downs in a row, we're trying to win the damn game. 2 first down runs in a row that are brought back with penalty. It's like, come on, guys. But my dad and I talk about it every week. It's like once something happens, now you got to hold your breath. And it's not even on the big plays. It's like on anything happens. And then there's illegal formation penalties and weird movement penalty. The person in motion wasn't set or moving forward. It's like and jumping off sides.
Yeah, and you know what? When was it easier to not have those penalties? Last year when there was no crowd noise and there was no nothing. You didn't have to coach to that.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, we're like you said, we're jumping off sides. A ton of
false starts.
Just a ton of pre-snap stuff that should be cleaned up by week 11. So I mean, we'll see what it brings in Baltimore Sunday night. But I mean, that's a hostile environment too. So they're probably gonna be going on the silent count a lot, and at that point, there's no reason for you to jump at that point if you're just watching the ball. So.
Yeah, it's that. I think that's another one of the frustrating things. There's injuries this year and penalties. Injuries and penalties, and drama.
Yeah.
But, all right, on to PFS. Mike, I'll allow you to start off with what other side of the bar you'd like today.
All right. We'll start with the offense. Why not? I mean, we've harped on the offense all night, so
let's do it.
It's only fitting. So you got a lineman coming in at number 1 again. I believe he was number 1 last week. Joel Bitonio at 90.9 with an absolute great, I mean, a 90.8 in the pass game, and a 78-1 in the run blocking game. So I mean, just
It's
total
fantastic.
domination. And then of course, if this guy isn't number one, then then
Wyatt
he had to be
Teller.
number two. No, Nick Chubb.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get to Teller.
Teller had a couple issues, penalty issues this game.
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest with you, every lineman was in the top 8. So I mean, they had a solid day.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, if you look all across the board,
mm-hmm.
and so I'll preface it with this: the only lineman that had trouble in the pass block and it was a huge score was Blake Hance with a 42-4, but his run block grade was a 77-1 with an overall of 66-1. He came in 7th, but the reason why I went there right now is because if you look at the pass blocking grades across the board this week, I mean, you had an 89-2, an 86, a 72-8, a 79-8. So, and then you throw Hooper in there, who saw 48 snaps, and Njoku who saw 47, 21 in the run block for Njoku, and 24 for Hooper. And those guys had a 76.8 and a 74. So the protection was there, right? The protection was there. So that was not a, I could sit here and we could, make excuses for Baker's poor play by saying, oh, you know what, the offensive line was horrible in the pass block on Sunday. Not the case. I mean, these are probably the best pass block scores that we've seen through 12 weeks. So pretty telling.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so D'Ernest was 3rd. So he had
how many snaps?
26, believe it or not. So it's not like, he had 12 and we, and he's we give him a flyer and go to the next guy. I mean, he was solid, 79-1.
I didn't realize he had that many snaps. I mean,
I didn't either.
He only carried the ball 5 times.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any catches. So, I mean, he was in there.
He was in there. 10 were pass snaps, and 5 runs and 2 run blocks. So, and he was pass blocking on 9 of them. So to equal that 26, but Shredder at 4, 78-1 overall and 86 in the pass block game. Like I said, I mean, these guys were, and a 74-5 in the run block. So, I mean, the offensive line played lights out. I mean, the only black mark was, the pass block at 42-4 for Blake Hance, but overall he was in the green. He played well. 5 was Njoku. He had 47 snaps. He had a 75-7, 71-8 in the run block, which is really good to see. 68-7 in the pass block. So, David had a really good game. And then your guy,
Wyatt.
Mr. Pancake, comes in at 6. Yep. 72-5 overall, 81-2 in the run block. And we saw him, burying guys. 72-8 in pass block. So Hance, we already talked about at 7. And then Jed comes in at 8. One of his better games, 65-7 overall.
Yeah.
With a 79-8 in the pass block. You can't beat that. So, the run blocking was 54-4, but it could have been, one missed block that brought him down to that score. But overall, you can't fault the offensive line, can you?
No, it wasn't the O-line. I mean, the O-line made it happen, and made it happen for for Nick to go kind of nuts as well.
Yeah. So
if we're seeing this production, and we're looking at it, and we're using PFF, we're not even using our own internal quality control guys, right? So they have a lot of data that they have access to. I mean, are they looking at that going, yeah, all right, let's develop a game plan using this analytics? I mean, wasn't that what we were sold?
Yeah.
Is that these are the analytics guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or so look at them and go, hey guys, guess what? We paid these offensive linemen a lot of money, and you know what? They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe we should leverage them in a way that gives us an advantage to win football games.
Yeah.
Right. So, and maybe they are doing that. It just doesn't appear that they're using them to the maximization of their abilities. But I don't know. I think again, we're built for Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb to run wild. And you know, if we get Kareem back this week, you know, that's I think we have a shot.
Yeah, but you know, and I'm just going to say this and lead into the score, and then we'll go to defense. But you know, am I the biggest fan of Stefanski's offense? No, not really. I much you know, rather, you know, see a more a run but a downfield type of passing game. But that's just because it's more exciting, right? But the way we run the ball, he should be feasting off the play action. He should just be, I mean, he should just be feasting in general. And, you know, we see throws into triple coverage and reads blown. So, you know, you there's no way you should be able to run the ball as well as we do and then not be able to pass for shit. Right. It statistically, it's not supposed to work that way at all.
Well, I mean, the problem that I'm seeing is like you run early, you develop and you earn the right to use play action that opens it up. It makes, I mean, we're looking at it every game now. I am hyper aware of it. They are putting 8 to 9 men in the box almost every play other than the situational third down.
And Mike, they're still running well.
Yeah.
Which is wild. And then from the passing aspect of it, they can't do anything right.
Yeah. You know? It's frustrating.
Yeah. And so to end the offense, Baker was 15 out of 17 for a 50.6 score. So a far cry from the score before.
Not his best.
No, not at all. And against a lowly Lions team. So if we go over to the defensive side of the ball, number one is interesting. He only played 18 snaps, but I still find it interesting. It's Malcolm Smith. 18 total, 9 run, 9 in coverage, a 90.5. And that was actually his coverage score as well. So, I mean, not that the Lions, you know, have receivers and tight ends to set the world on fire, but still a nice score. Number 2 was Denzel. He had 48 snaps. He was an 85.8 and an 88.5 in coverage, 72.8 tackling. So Denzel, you know, since Denzel's has come off of that, what was it, his calf or his ankle or whatever it was, since he's come back from that injury, I mean,
pretty good.
He's played lights out. Yeah, I mean, you can't complain. Number 3, your buddy, and he was in the sweet spot. How many snaps do we always say that he has to be in the sweet spot?
Like 15,
13, and he was an 81.8.
There you go.
Right.
I mean, again, math.
Yeah. Ronnie Harrison, 42 snaps. He was a 79.9. Greedy was out there for 20 snaps. He was a 79.7. He quietly had a good game. If you told me Greedy Williams was playing, I wouldn't even know. Like I don't remember seeing him on the field, which, you know, I mean, that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
Garrett came in at 6 with a 75.5. He played a total of 45 snaps. JOK got hurt, you know, towards the latter part, I believe, of the third quarter. But he's been on a pitch count. He finished with 14. He was at a 66.1, 78.2 in tackling. It'll be interesting to see. You know, Stefanski said the other day that JOK is fine. You know, it was a slight tweak of the ankle. So I would imagine, you know, unless, you know, something comes up during the rest of the week or what have you, I would imagine that you're probably going to see JOK on the field a lot this week, shadowing Lamar. If Lamar goes, I heard it's a respiratory thing. He practiced today, but he practiced last week too, and then he struggled and he couldn't play. So,
Mm.
Number 8 we don't count. It was one snap for Joe Jackson.
I don't know.
Porter Gustin was 9 with a 59-9. And then just the rest of the way is, John Johnson was a 58-3. He continues to disappoint. Then you had Malik at a
John Johnson is just, I mean, the amount of excitement I had for him coming in to shore it up, and he's basically been Sendejo light. I mean, he's not been better, and I think that's again. Is there a Minkah Fitzpatrick in the draft that we miss out on because we're stretching for a backup quarterback in the first round? I mean, are we dumb enough to do that? Or I think most likely, again, and just this put me back on the tangent, the most likely thing that's going to happen is we're going to go and find that hole, and we're going to try to fill that hole. That's one thing that these guys have been very good at. AB, DePodesta, these guys have been, they are not going to, I don't think they're going to replace a position unless it's an immediate need and we're going to fill it. So I would be shocked. And I think that the wide receiver position has to be addressed.
Absolutely.
And there's got to be stuff on the defense that has to be addressed. And I think that, like you mentioned before, Stefanski's not leaving Cleveland without him getting a chance to have his own quarterback.
Yeah. And
that it could be a veteran guy. I firmly believe that there's a chance that Kirk Cousins could be playing in Cleveland.
Could be. I mean, to what we said earlier. I mean, if they don't want to spend the money, and I know they picked up the 5th year, but I mean, if they don't want to go that route, but by all means, if they like a kid in the draft that they want to, have learned behind a crafty type of veteran, you could be 100% right. They can go out and get a Kirk Cousins and draft a kid to sit behind,
And I don't know what his contract looks like, but
I don't either.
They're 5-5 this year, the Vikings.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see them start making a move here up the stand. I mean, they have, but I think that Vikings team is going to contend towards the end of the year for that division.
Well, I mean, if you look at what Kirk has done since he's been there, 8-7, 10-5, 7-9. Right now he's 5-5. But statistically, 21 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's not on Kirk. It ain't on Kirk losing these games. So I would not be surprised if they're saying, "Hey, look, I think it'd be crazy to do it, but the reality is, Yeah,
I mean, you get to the end
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to the end of the season and you don't like what you saw. Like we said, everything is on the table.
You imagine
everything can be on the table because of the offensive line we have and the running back talent, and the defensive talent. I mean, I mean, and I don't want to go on and on about the point, but imagine and I'm not saying this guy is going to come here because of that. There's no way. If anywhere, I think he winds up in Las Vegas. But I imagine what this team might be this year with like an Aaron Rodgers at the helm.
Or imagine you get Baker 21 touchdowns and 2 interceptions like Kirk Cousins has.
Yeah,
we're not 6-5.
No,
there's no way.
No, everybody's looking up at us.
Yeah, so it really comes down to what he's going to show for the rest of the season. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail that. I just
that's fine. That's fine. And isn't Kubiak still calling the plays in Minnesota? Because if he is, I mean, that's Stefanski's offense. So vice versa. So it's 21-2 in terms of touchdown interception ratio. With the same offense. So
I mean, Cousins right now is on pace to throw 40 touchdowns this year.
Yeah,
40.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, there's nothing else really to write home about from the defensive side of things. It just, Greg Newsom was at a 55.1. Anthony Walker was at a 50.1. Delpit, even a lower snap count. His numbers aren't very good. He's out of position quite often. We had high hopes for Grant Delpit, and right now, we're not seeing any fruits of the labor, as they say. So that'll be interesting. But one guy I will say, and we'll end the PFF here. Clowney was 39 snaps. He was at a 47.2. So usually, I don't think I've ever seen him this low. He's usually in the top 10. So peculiar.
Yeah. All right. Expectations going into this game. I think that, I mean, we say must win every week because it's the NFL. Every week does feel like a must win. Yep. But you're a 6-5 team. It's an in-division game. You're going into a bye week where they're going to come to your house. I mean, if we win this game, and they haven't been lights out this year.
No, not at all.
I know that they have a good record, but they have not been lights out this year. And other than, if it was Huntley, I'd be like, I feel really good. But with Lamar coming back, I mean, he's just such an X factor that you never know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, I feel like Lamar really has our number, and we either play amazing in Baltimore or we shit the bed.
I mean, and I mean, you just set me up. I mean, we could even come back, and this guy could go run in the locker room, take a dump, come out, and put us away. So
I mean,
he does
think,
it all.
I think there's a couple things that are going to happen here. We're going to win the game, and we're going to be riding high going into that bye week. We're going to,
you know what? Everybody, let's say for devil's advocate that Skip Bayless and his source, right, about the locker room is accurate. They win this game on Sunday night, that all shifts.
It flushes it all down.
It flushes all out, because now you just gain ground in the division. You beat the Ravens. Now you're going to rest up, and that'll be the message, right? Stefanski's message will be, hey, we just beat these guys. We gained the game on them. Now we have a bye week. We got a chance to rest up, really, really dial in our preparation. And now you get these guys at home, guys. You could make up 2 games in 3 weeks.
I mean, eight. We could be looking at 8-5, right?
Yeah.
8-5 against 7-4.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, I think whoever wins this game is going to win the next one.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's hope we win then.
I hope we do. And I think the other thing too, being that the Ravens, I think the Ravens have, I mean, the Titans are number 1, and then the Cardinals are number 2, and then the Packers are number 3. Ravens are the 4th best team in the league. I mean, if we beat the Ravens in Baltimore and come back and beat them in Cleveland, hey guys, it is a brand new season. I don't care if Baker has an 8 QBR as well. We beat the Ravens twice in a row. Like, buckle up, because like all hands are going to be on deck to turn this thing loose going into what the Raiders then. A very winnable Saturday game, right? And they flex that thing to a Saturday.
And think about that, Mike. And you alluded to it. I mean, you go on the road, you beat the Ravens. You come home, you beat the Ravens. And now you're geared up for a primetime 4:30 Saturday game against the Raiders coming to your town. Probably going to be a little chilly. It could be some, weather implications.
Sure.
You could be on a run. You could absolutely be on a run.
Yes.
It is. The season comes down really to the next 3 weeks. It really does.
You go Ravens win, Raiders win. You are driving. You're running downhill at that point. And then you got Packers on Christmas,
which is going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, but it's going to feel like going to feel like the Super Bowl to us. Oh,
especially if you and you and I were like, we're like dreamers. I mean, John Lennon should be on my shoulder, but it could be. I mean, just think about that for a second. If they took these two from the Ravens,
yeah,
and then wax the Raiders on a Saturday night primetime game, you're absolutely right. No matter how good Green Bay is, now you're going to Green Bay on Christmas.
yeah.
I mean, you're believing in everything. And at that point, you don't have to believe in miracles because you're proof at that point that, hey, we can do this thing.
We'd be 9-5 going into that game. Okay.
It'd be unreal.
It'd be 9-5, and we'd be right there to try to get to 11.
Yeah.
Right. I think 11's the magic number here.
Yeah, you might be able to get in at 10-7, but to your point,
you're going to squeak in there, and
yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
And there's too many teams right now that are all decent in the AFC. You got the Bills,
yeah,
the Dolphins are coming on,
yeah,
the Chargers, the Raiders, the Broncos. I mean, the Bengals, Steelers, Browns, the Colts. Everybody's in it. The only teams that are out are the Jets, Texans, and Jags. Everybody else is like,
in it
within reason, are playing relevant football, going into December.
And when was the last time you saw parity like this in the NFL?
I literally can't remember it.
I can't either.
And then if you really look at it, the Titans are 8-3, and I think they're a bad 8-3.
Yeah.
I mean, look at their points for 291, points against 254. They have more points against them than we do. I mean, it's like fantasy football. It's like when you score the points and how you score them. And they turned 291 points for and 254 points away into an 8-3 record, right? So these are the critical games, though. We took one off the Bengals, which was huge, and we did it in great fashion. We barely lost to the Steelers, right? And the Steelers are always, no matter what, no matter how like mediocre they are, they're always going to play us tough.
Yeah.
They always will. It's the rivalry game outside of the Ravens, right? So that's to be expected. We still have a redemption game that we can go to Heinz Field and hopefully do something well there. But I mean, I don't know. I still have optimism. The more I think about it, the more exciting it actually is to go into these last 6.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all going to come down to the quarterback play, I believe, especially the next 2 games. I mean, if
well, the defense has to show up.
Yeah, they do absolutely. But if Baker's going to go out there and I mean, what the past 3 weeks is it that they've scored no more than 14 points or whatever it was for? I mean, so we're just not scoring points. But if he can figure it out, we can absolutely. Win these next 2 games and go on a roll. But again, like I said, you and I are dreamers, and you got to be as fans. But at the same time, you can, a guy can get hot. He can figure it out. We'll see. I mean, he's playing for the bag, right? The rest of the way, he's playing for the bag. And
absolutely.
So if you want the bag, you better figure it out. And we'll find out.
Well, I just put in the 1 to 100 for Victory Monday mug. So everybody can put in your number now. We got the mug giveaway is happening soon. So thank you guys for sticking with us today. And we've only been able to give away 6 of them so far. This is the 6th one. Yeah. So I really feel like this is the year that we could have some more. We could have some more to give away. And if you guys don't have, if you're not one of the muggies yet,
I like that.
You got to get in. It is one of the most fun things is waking up after a Browns win and breaking out that mug and then tweeting it out there. So definitely get those numbers plugged in. Super chat comes through from Levi. I still believe in Baker. There's a list of 30 plus QBs in the last 20 years in Cleveland, and he's objectively better than all of them. I would agree. Other than the one season that DA put together, where he also threw like 19 interceptions on his 29 touchdowns. I mean, he's arguably it's not even actually within question. I mean, Baker's obviously the best quarterback we've had in the last 20 years.
There's no question. But
21 years, yeah.
And at the same time, I mean that's really.
Thank you,
and
Levi.
I don't mean this as a giant knock, but I mean it wasn't that difficult to be better than all the guys prior. I mean, it wasn't really a high bar that you had to you know what I mean, that you had to leap over. So
No.
you know, it's all relative.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so the number was 81.
Who won?
Let's see who won here. We had Charles Boneham with a 77. I think Charles wins.
Yeah.
Okay, Charles, congratulations. You are the winner of the Victory Monday mug giveaway. Send me an email to browniepostgame@gmail.com. browniepostgame@gmail.com with your name and address, and we will get that Victory Monday mug out to you. So congratulations on that.
Congrats.
Charles, congratulations. Again, Victory Monday mug giveaway, browniepostgame@gmail.com. Charles, shoot me your address, and we'll get that over to you. All right, Mike, final thoughts here, man. Final thoughts. I'll give it to you first, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So I, first and foremost, I hope everybody has a really nice Thanksgiving tomorrow. Spend it with your family. You know, hug your loved ones. You know, you don't know how much longer you have with each other. And just enjoy the day and you know, enjoy the football tomorrow. Right. It's going to be, you know, some fun games, and you know, we'll be back on Sunday as always, and we'll figure this thing out, see where we're at in terms of who's in, who's out, how everybody practiced, and you know, I'm gonna hold my prediction till then, because I honestly really don't know, but yeah, just everybody enjoy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I echo those sentiments as well, guys. Thank you very much for joining us here. I hope everybody has a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. I think you know, we have a lot to give thanks for here. I know I know me and my family do. I know that just as the Browns community, I think we have a lot to give thanks for as well. And it's a good day to reflect, watch some mediocre football together with your families, and you know, eat good food and really, you know, get ready to wrap up the rest of the year. You know, so but in terms of everything else, guys, you know, I think the media makes things out to be a lot worse than they are oftentimes, so we have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
I think that we can only control the things that we can control. And if you're going to go to a football game and try to boo Baker or do something like that, like I don't mind booing if you're booing the refs, if you're booing the play calling, that's certain things. But to boo Baker, you know, at this point, like, we can be upset with him. And Mike, you and I are very, very critical of him.
Absolutely.
behind closed doors, when we see bad things happen. But the thing is, like, I'm still a supporter. I still really do love the guy, and you know, he's not perfect. Nobody is, but I really do believe over these next 6 games, we'll make the determination to the future of Baker Mayfield, if it's going to be secured or if we're going to be in a, well, let's see what else is out there. You know, let's go back on Tinder and see what other fish are out there in the sea. Right. So I wish him the best of luck, because if he does well, typically we do well as a team, and we need it. You know, we definitely do. So exciting next couple of weeks. Everybody have a good and happy and safe holiday, please. And we will see you on Sunday. Actually, I'm not even sure what time the game is. What time is the Ravens game at?
What do they
It's a 1 o'clock
kick off?
No.
It's Sunday Night Football.
It's Sunday Night Football.
8:20. No, is it
Sunday?
I always get the is it right? 8:20 is usually the start on Sunday.
Oh, son of a bitch. Oh, that's really not good for me, but okay. It's going to be a late night, but it's going to be a late night.
It is. You know what? Hopefully it's it's a late night at the end of the game where we know it's, we're going to be tired, but at least it's a, we're tired because we won, and we're still talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to all the people who've been here today. Tim, Wolf Sam, Neo, Imadivant, 17 Squabble, Steve Z, Charles, Andrew, Beast Grills, Ryan Burlow. Who else we got in here? Thank you, Levi, again for the super chat. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Wolfstan. Did we say Wolfstan?
Wolfstan, yeah, Wolfstan, and Cleveland BCI was in the house.
And you
Ryan
know what?
Brown.
And tonight's one of those nights that, usually everybody, goes out and it's the biggest drinking night of the year and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of people in here tonight. So we really appreciate you guys, on the night before Turkey Day, tuning in with us and hanging out. We trust me, we appreciate that more than.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. I appreciate it, guys. You help us. We watch the chat. Sometimes try to get to the answers. Obviously, the super chat, we will always answer those because we kind of have to. They're like right in our face. Plus, you spend money on them, so of course, that'd be disrespectful if we ignored those. But we definitely see your chats, guys, and appreciate the camaraderie and the community that we've created here. So I will leave it at that. Thank you guys very much. Happy Thanksgiving, Browns fans. Let's go beat the Ratbirds in Murder Town, and then hopefully get a little break and then beat them again at home. So with that, I bid you adieu and go Browns.
Go Browns.